Welcome to Cottontail's Podcast, where we interview African Americans who are changing the narrative of the Black community. Our interviews will include professionals in technology, business, medicine, education, and entrepreneurial pursuits. Today, we're talking to Janie Jensen. Janie is a certified home stager and redesign expert. She is a member of the Real Estate Staging Association, an internationally recognized trade association. Her business is based in Silicon Valley. Welcome to my podcast, Janie. Janie, you are now a certified home staging person. Before that, you were a police woman and you worked for IBM as their main diversity officer. Am I right?
That's right, Kathy. I've had several careers, and after IBM, I went to Apple, and after Apple, I became a self-employed management consultant.
We talked about how African Americans came to this valley and saw opportunity and made contributions to some of these companies. And I think you are in that category. And can you tell me what some of the contributions you made at the police department?
Well, Kathy, I was actually the first female police officer for San Jose Police Department. And I was at a time when women in policing were not accepted. So it was a challenge, to say the least. But I also, in addition to working patrol, I also worked in the recruiting area, helping to recruit more women to the police department. And then later on, I became a sergeant. I was the first female sergeant to work patrol. After I worked patrol for a while, then I went into the training area and personnel, as we called it at the time, and training, and managed a group of police officers who were doing background checks. Also helped to put together some training programs for training new police officers, participated in what we call the field training program, and I would advise the lieutenant who was in charge of that program on some of the things that I felt that they should include to have police officers trained. So I also worked doing training for new police recruits. So I had a very, very varied career at the police department.
And so, would you say, just from your experience with the police department and then again at IBM doing the recruiting there and all that, would you say having a minority in place made a difference in any of these careers that you've had?
Oh, I think it made a difference in all of the careers that I've had. We, at the police department at the time, there were not a lot of minority officers. And when you're serving a diverse community, you need to have people who can understand what's going on in a particular community. So I think that I was helpful in getting more minorities as well as women officers to become police officers. When I worked at IBM, it was one of the things I did was recruiting. And I would, in fact, recruit at some of the historically black colleges so that we would have new young engineers and new software developers come to work for IBM in San Jose. So I think I made a difference there. Also, I was the Chief Equal Opportunity Employment and Diversity Officer, and I certainly made a difference there because I would have employees who would come to me with complaints, with issues, with concerns about their career. Some of them I would mentor. Some of them I would tell them, go back to work and do your job because you're not doing it. And some of them I was able to work with them to help them decide whether or not they wanted to stay at IBM or leave. And there were some who decided, this is not the place for me and I really need to move on. And I think when I went to Apple, I did basically the same thing. I was managing their multicultural programs department at that time, helping Apple to develop affirmative action plans, which they had not done very well in the past, helping them to develop diversity strategies, going out to recruit more individuals of color. I also worked with their Women in Technology group, because that was another thing that they were looking to do, is to have more women in technology join Apple. So I think I've made a difference in all of the areas that I've worked.
You and I have worked in diversity training, both of us. It was a very positive thing at first, the idea of opening the doors to people who previously had been locked out and finding all these brilliant people of color that we brought into these companies who made a difference. And then over time, there was a narrative that was begun that said, if you have to come through affirmative action, then you're less than, that kind of thing.
Right.
How did you overcome some of that thinking, or were you able to?
I really think the way you have to do it, Kathy, is rather than arguing with people, is simply to be able to show them that you are a great employee and a great person. And I think that one of the things that we as minorities have always been taught by our parents, at least I was taught, is that you can't be as good as, you have to be better than. And by being better than, it might mean that you have to work harder. It might mean that you have to learn more. It might mean that you have to put more time in, because you want to be able to prove that you are, in fact, able to do the job that you were hired to do. Because there, of course, in an era, there was a time when people felt that, gee, if you came through the affirmative action program, you're just there because we wanted to fill a number with you. Mm-hmm. So you want to make sure that you are able to get rid of that myth, and you want to have people say, she's not so bad after all. In fact, she's pretty damn smart.
I can remember being asked, after working at the phone company for about 6 months as a service rep, I was pulled into the supervisor's office, and I thought, okay, Kathy, you're in trouble now. The district manager of AT&T in San Joaquin Valley asked me, were there any other people like me? I felt very good when I left there, because when I left the phone company in Stockton, California, and moved to San Francisco, I left behind, I don't know how many women and men I got into the phone company because they asked me that simple question, any more people like you? But of course, this was very early on. I was there in 1963, 64 time frame, so it was pretty new stuff. The narrative changed probably in the 80s and 90s, when a lot of us were all competing for the same kinds of jobs, and there had to be a hook. So one of the advantages was, or taken away, they thought, if they start this narrative, you're hiring under if you hire minorities, that kind of thing. So
right. Too bad that we've always had to prove ourselves, but I guess that's just the way it was, and probably still is in some areas of the country today.
So it really has affected your life, your current life too, trying to prove yourself. How did you become interested in staging homes?
Well, I had always loved to do decorating, Kathy, and I have taken lots of classes through the University of California Extension program in decorating. I've also taken some through local community centers. Mm-hmm. So, and I've always had friends who called me to say, hey, can you come over and, help me? I'm going to move the furniture today, or I want to get your opinion on what I should do with the bathroom, or can you go shopping with me and help me pick out some accessories for the living room, whatever. So I've always done that. And I've just always had a love of doing that. The way I got interested in staging, it's really kind of a funny story, one of those things that you fall into. I was going to sell my home. This was about, maybe 4 years ago. A friend of mine who's a real estate agent, and in fact, she's one of my neighbors, came over to take a look at the house, and we went through it together, and she suggested some changes. And at the very end, she said, "Don't worry about staging because I'll do that for you." And I said, "What staging?" And she told me, and I said, "People get paid for that?" And she said, "Yes." And so this light went on in my head. And I thought, well, wait a minute. I've been doing this all for free all of this time. You mean I can get paid? And one of these people that immediately goes and hangs out a shingle when I get an idea. I like to do research in it to find out what it's about. I like to talk to people who are in the industry. That's how I got involved in actually realizing I wanted to seem legit. So I went through a certification course, and I initially was not certified. And I was very upset at the person who was running the course, and it was kind of an online type of course. She sent me a critique of what I needed to improve upon. And she also gave me some suggestions. Read this, read that, do this, do that. And I have to admit, she was right. After I got over my initial, what does she mean? Went and did those things and resubmitted my portfolio like 2 weeks later, and I got certified. So then I decided, okay, there must be some trade association where they have a lot of stagers. So I went online, Googled it, as we Google everything these days, and sure enough, found the Real Estate Staging Association and thought, well, I'm going to check these people out. So I went to a conference, in their annual conference in Las Vegas. I didn't know anyone, but I wanted to see what they did. I wanted to talk to people, and came back and joined the group and decided, okay, this is what I'm going to do. So that's a long story about how I got started.
No, that's what I need, is those stories, because there is a process. There is a path you have to get on and stay on in order to become good at what you do. So you started off with an online course and ended up joining organization through after going to their conference, is what you're saying. Still, there was a lot of work that you did in between there, right?
Oh yeah, there was. I went to a couple of, the term these days is meetup. I went to a couple of meetups of other stagers and talked to them. I talked to the state representative. I would call her up a lot and just spend time with her on the phone. She became a mentor to me. And I would say, okay, how do I decide how much to charge? Or what do I do about this? And I had to invest in accessories. The very first job that I staged, I made no money whatsoever. I went in the hole, but it didn't matter to me because I actually had a job. And that was both exciting and scary. I remember that I borrowed furniture from one of my best friends who loves to shop. And she actually had enough furniture that I could stage a 2-bedroom house.
I hate to even ask who that was.
She had a cottage in the back of her home, and so she had a lot of furniture in there. She was going to be getting rid of it, and so she let me borrow this, But I still had to buy all of my accessories, and I had to buy paintings, and I had to buy things like that, soft goods, that I made absolutely no money. But I got to put those things on Facebook, and that's how I got started.
Fantastic. So the first, at least at the beginning of this, there wasn't a whole lot of money coming in.
There probably wasn't any money coming in for 2 years. I mean, everything I made, I would take it and turn it back into the business. And people don't realize this, but when you're staging a home, I mean, you might have to put 5 pillows on a sofa and 2 pillows in each chair that you have in the room. And by doing that, you probably spent close to $150. And that doesn't include what you do for the dining room, all of the dishes, and you do for the kitchen, and it doesn't include the artwork. So you could have actually, and I've never really sat down and figured it out. I should do that someday. But you could have $5,000 worth of your own things tied up in a home in order to stage it.
I can imagine. I can
Yeah,
just
you know.
because if
So,
you want to get a certain look for a home, and that doesn't mean that you're going to go to Walmart to buy it. You're going to have to buy something that is pretty expensive, or at least good looking.
it looks expensive,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And you can, and the thing is, in Silicon Valley, because the average home is costing $1 million up, sells for $1 million up, so you can't really put cheap-looking stuff in there because it's going to look cheap.
Yes.
So you got to put some things that are reasonably priced. They don't have to be top of the line, but you still can't put Walmart, $2 pillows and things like that.
Right. Or if they are from Walmart, they at least they look like they're expensive pillows.
Right. You hide them in back of the really expensive ones.
There you go. When you're doing all this, do you use a lot of technology in your business? Do you use like computers, cameras, scanners, phones?
Yeah. I use computers. I use a camera, an actual camera, not just my phone, but an actual camera. I use my cell phone sometimes. I will, in fact, take pictures of what I'm doing at the time. I might want to take pictures of my team as they're bringing furniture in, as they're helping me, or my assistant as she's steaming, comforters and things so they look nice. And so I can put that on Facebook. I use a scanner. So I use technology all of the time.
In college, I know most of us had to take an accounting class or something like that. Are you using those skills, like your accounting skills, your finance skills, to keep this business afloat?
Oh, yeah. Yes. One of the things that I do is I've created a spreadsheet. I have two types of spreadsheets. Well, I got actually more than two. But as far as the financial one, I will write down everything, how much I want to get paid, how much it's going to cost me to rent furniture, how much I'm paying my assistant, what the moving costs are going to be, any other incidentals that I have to buy. And then that, I do an Excel spreadsheet, and that then helps me to figure out, okay, am I going to make money on this job? And if I'm not making money on the job, then I need to figure out what I can do to make money. I also have, a yearly budget that I plan on how much I'm going to be using for marketing, how much I'm using for my website, how much I'm using for supplies that I have to buy, dues for any other organization that I belong to.
Mm-hmm.
So you use accounting skills all the time.
Wow. So you mentioned social media. So how much of that are you using?
I am using social media. I do have a Facebook, a business Facebook page, and I also use LinkedIn. I probably keep telling myself I need to get more involved with social media. So that's one of the things that I plan to do this year, is to become more involved on social media. Mm-hmm. Spend more time, I think, on Facebook and doing some of the stagers are doing now, which really turns out good, is they're doing live Facebook posts as they're staging. They will do a Facebook, so it goes live.
Oh.
And they say, okay, this is what I'm doing. This is the house here. This is what it looks like. In, an hour, I'm going to be able to show you how much change I've made in it. And that seems to be really effective. That's my goal this year, is to be able to do that. I don't think that Twitter is really that effective to this business because, in Twitter, you're making a comment on something. And, what can I comment on? Say, these are beautiful pillows that I picked up today at Z Gallery, So, the one thing about staging, it's all visual. And it's all the visual presence that you create. Mm-hmm. So it's updating your website, and that's one of the things that's on my to-do list, is to update my website. The other thing is I have a lot of testimonials from they're real estate agents and things. So I need to get more testimonials because you like to be current. You don't like to make it seem like, oh, this is something that happened 2 years ago, because then people wonder, 2 years ago, what has she done in the last 2 years?
Right, right.
So it's a matter of just staying current rather than adding a lot of other social media.
Exactly. Well, I just got an email today from a young man that I really trust, because I said I was going to have a podcast every week, and he said, nope, do it every quarter. A week or 2 weeks is too many. You need to do it once a quarter and get the fallout from that, and then go back and do it another quarter. And after thinking about it, after going through that first one and doing all that editing, and I think once a quarter is going to be good.
And I think he's right, Kathy, because there is one stager. She's very experienced, and I like what she has to say, but she does a Facebook Live post every day. And it's like I'm at the point where I don't even listen to her stuff anymore. Because, number one, I don't have time, and I don't care if she's in such and such a place having a cup of coffee and talking to a client. You know what I mean?
I gotcha. Right.
I'm here with one of my real favorite realtors, and we're having a cup of coffee. Okay, that's nice, but maybe you should do a favorite. What is your favorite realtor? What does she like about stagers or something like that?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So really what you're saying is, if you're going to be involved with social media, make it effective and something that people really want to hear or learn from.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So tell me this: how do you acquire your clients? And the other part of that question is, are they more residential or business?
My clients are all residential, and the way that I acquire most of my clients is I do a lot of networking. In addition to my staging organization that I'm the president of this year, so I'm very busy there. But I also belong to 2 real estate groups, actually 3 now that I'm thinking about it. I belong to the Women's Council of Realtors. I belong to Santa Clara County Association of Realtors. And then the Santa Clara County Association of Realtors has an affiliate group. In other words, those people who are not realtors, but they work with realtors, such as loan officers, escrow officers, myself as a stager, people who give home warranties. And I belong to that group. And we put on a monthly brunch and learn session. And we have a new chairperson who came up with a great idea this year. And she's doing is, we just had a brunch and learn session. We do them once a month. And it's always an educational hour-and-a-half meeting. This time we had 86 realtors on Friday, and we did a great session on trust, creating a trust, and also if you are a realtor and you're working with somebody where someone has passed away and you have to work within the trust, what's the way to do that? But what our chairperson did was, before the meeting starts, we have 2 large televisions that we show whatever the presenters, want us to do. And she used those 2 TVs for half an hour while people were getting their food and sitting down and networking and things. And she had everyone who was a member of the group up there, so their pictures would be on. It was, such a thing that went around constantly with pictures. And it was so interesting because I had 3 women come up to me at the end of the session that said, were you the one that was up there? And if you were, I'd really like your card because I have a new house that I think I'm going to be needing to be staged.
Fantastic.
And, yeah. So it was perfect. Absolutely perfect. So it's just a matter of being out there. I go to what are called brokers tours every week. And the brokers tour is where agents as well as brokers will put whatever houses they are going to sell on tour. And the tour at that point is only open to real estate agents or affiliates. And I go to the brokers tours for our group, and I usually will pick out 5 homes that I'm going to target that day. I go in, it gives me a chance to meet the real estate agents, to talk to them, to see if the house has been sold. If the house has been staged. Mm-hmm. And it's a great way to meet real estate agents.
How do you initiate your work with your clients? You walk through with them, or do they bring you pictures of their house? How do you work with them?
Okay, I offer 3 different types of staging services. One is a consultation, where I would go to a home, and I can either be hired by the real estate agent who's going to sell that home, or by the homeowner who is going to put their home on sale, and they don't feel they need a stager, but they want some advice on what should be done to either bring the home bring it up to date, or, how to make the home look the best with what they have. Mm-hmm. So I do a 2-hour walkthrough with them, and of course I charge for it. Mm-hmm. And I make suggestions and it's usually about, you really need to declutter this home because we all have too much stuff. So I'll work with them on helping them decide what things they need to at least put in a moving pod or put in the garage or someplace to get it out of the home, because what you want to do is you want to make the home look large. And if you've got too much stuff in it, it just looks cluttered. It doesn't look large. So that's one of the types of staging that I do. I do another one, which is called an occupied staging. And with an occupied staging, again, I'm walking through the home, taking pictures, and I suggest to people what to keep, what to go, and I will also bring in some of my own accessories. So I may be bringing in pillows and bed throws and artwork and, decorative items. Mm-hmm. And then the third kind I do is vacant staging, where it's completely furnishing the home. So the way I initiate, I like to sit down and have a connection with people, because I think when you develop a connection, especially with something that's as personal as a home, and now you're going to be telling them you need to get rid of all of those junky pictures that you have on the wall, and the pictures of all your grandsons and children have to go and be put away, and you need to get rid of all of those little figurines that your mother left you, because no one wants to see those. So you had to have established some kind of fairly good connection with the person before you get into that. So once I do a walkthrough and talk to them, then I take photographs.
If you take photographs, you can show like before and after, huh?
Yeah.
Do you do that on your website, or do you have a website?
I have a website, Kathy, and I do have some before and afters. And that's one of the things that I'm going to be doing. That was on my, how we all have our January to-do list?
Yes.
So that's one of the things that is on my January to-do list, is to update my website by putting more of those before and after pictures on it.
What is the name of your company, first of all?
Right. The name of my company is Always the Best Home Staging. Mm-hmm.
Your contact information?
I'll give you a phone number as well as my website, so people can take a look at that. Right. So the best number to reach me at is my mobile phone, and it is 408-966-3696.
Okay.
And what I will do, Kathy, is to make sure that I give you the right website and things, I will email that to you.
Okay.
So you can add that.
Right, and what I will do on my website, placeatthetable.live, I have my podcast, and under your name and picture, I'll have these lists of associations and your company name and your contact number, and even your Facebook picture if you'd like.
A lot of people aren't sure what home staging is and what it does. Mm-hmm. And it's not decorating a home. Okay, that's what an interior decorator does, or an interior designer. They decorate the home so that it reflects your taste. Mm-hmm. I don't do that. What I do is I enhance the home, but not to fit the homeowner's taste, but what is going to sell to a specific clientele. And just to give you an example, one of the things that happens in Silicon Valley is we have so many people working out of their homes. They might have a job, but it could be in Boston, and they work out of their homes in order to get that done. So one of the things that I have started to include in all of my homes that I stage is a home office. Okay, this is a room that could be used for an office, and I'll put a desk in there. I'll put a couple of chairs, which you would need. I'll always make sure there's a clock, because you want to have that clock in front of you so you know what you're doing when you're interviewing somebody or whatever. I'll put a bulletin board in there so they can put things on the bulletin board to remind them of, and I'll put a chalkboard so they can write ideas as they come up. So I've been doing that lately, and I also include a globe, because a lot of times, people don't know where Myanmar is, or they don't know where Singapore is, and they might be dealing with somebody who's in Singapore. So I always include a globe in there. It's not a very big globe, it's a small globe, but, I try and stage a home so that it's going to be, is it a starter home? And if it is, it's usually a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and we've used one for an office, and now we have a room for mom and dad, and then we have a child's room. So that's kind of the starter home, versus if you're moving up to a large home and you've got, 6 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms and things, you're certainly not staging it the same way you would with a starter home.
Janie, I think we have come to the end of our podcast, and it has been extremely informative. Thank you so much for being a part of my podcast.
Thank you.
You're listening to Cottontail's podcast, part of the Silicon Valley Black Project, which produced the documentary film A Place at the Table, telling about the Black pioneers of Silicon Valley. A Place at the Table can be viewed for rent on vimeo.com/on-demand/A Place at the Table STEM, all one word. Silicon Valley Black Project will be producing podcasts featuring African American professionals, entrepreneurs, technologists, and engineers from the past and present. Thank you for listening.